Okay, so for an infusion visit, after you've done an assessment, taken vitals, and the patient's stable enough to get the meds, then you will be able to run an infusion. Sometimes that's to gravity, sometimes it's through elastomeric pumps, which are little balls that automatically kind of squeeze it in, the medication in over 30 minutes or so. But commonly for things like IVIG and things that have titration changes to ramp up the infusion, you'll use a Curlin 6000 pump. So this is the specific pump that is most common in home infusions. To turn it on, you push on off, and it'll kind of go through its startup here. These are really bomb proof. They last for a long time. They usually can't go wrong, knock on wood. And then there's not much to them. They're pretty simple. Mostly it's just numbers, and then there's a few buttons that you interact with. You can't program it incorrectly. The patient can't mess anything up unless you enter a super secret code. If you do need to do that, on the rare occasion that you do, you would call the pharmacist from whatever pharmacy you're taking the job through, and they have a 24/7 pharmacist available, and they would walk you through how to reprogram it. Super simple. But basically, most of the time, 99% of the time, you're going to just run the program that the pharmacist has already programmed into this before they shipped it to the patient's house. The pharmacy is going to ship everything you need: medication, supplies, tubing, everything except your tools to take vitals to the patient before you get there. So they've already programmed in whatever the doctor prescribed as the titration steps for this infusion. So you're just going to hit repeat RX, like repeat the one that they already programmed, hit yes, and it's going to automatically scroll through the settings. We'll be able to manually go through this in a second, but you can see it's 200 mils over 4 doses or 4 titrations. The first dose runs at 15 mils an hour for 15 minutes, then it doubles to 30 mils an hour for 15 minutes, then doubles again to 60 mils an hour for 15 minutes, and then doubles again to 120 mils, and then runs for the remainder of the infusion for a total time of 2 hours and 11 minutes to get nearly that full 200 mil dose. There's like 0.7 remaining. But it'll shoot through that. If it's too quick for you and you're looking at the order and the pump and trying to make sure that everything matches, which you definitely need to do, you can just manually go through it if you hit no to review. And then you just hit yes to scroll down, and then all that it auto scrolled through, you can go through at whatever pace you want. You just hit yes to go to the next screen, and you can see, okay, the first dose, the first titration is running slowly at 15 mils an hour for 15 minutes. Cool. Dose 2, similarly, 30 mils an hour for 15 minutes. Dose 3, 60 for 15 minutes. And then it's going to run out the rest of the time at 120 mils an hour, which will be another hour and 26 minutes. And then again, an overview of the whole dosage. So 2 hours and 11 minutes for 199.3 mils. So cool, that looks great. That's exactly what my order sheet said that you get sent to you before you arrive at the assignment. So now we're good to prime. I'm going to prime by hitting this prime button, but first, of course, we have to insert the tubing. So huge important thing is that with all of these meds that you're giving at home, they're very valuable, thousands to tens of thousands of dollars per dose. So you can never spike the bag, never pop off caps off meds, anything like that, until you've done vitals, assess the patient, make sure they're stable enough, and got your access secure. So whether that's starting an IV, accessing a PIC or a port, you need to make sure that you have blood flow and it flushes before you spike the meds, because if any of those things aren't in place, you spike the meds, they get wasted, tens of thousands of dollars are lost. So you've done that, you've checked your patient, they're stable, you're ready to spike your meds, you're ready to prime. The tubing comes in, it's specific to this pump, it comes in a package. Open it up, there's a spike to spike your meds, and then there are these 2 little pieces that go into the pump itself. This gold piece I've already used for training, but there's a little gold circle that you have to twist off and throw away, and that releases this spring so that the pump can actually pump. So to insert the tubing, you pop up this lever that says unlock right here, lift to open, and then it'll open up this arm and expose the roller clamp in this channel. There's the 2 pieces of the tubing that have to go in. One's a big gold piece, so there's a gold arrow pointing at this square block right here that you're going to insert that in. And then on this side, there's a blue arrow pointing to that little square hole that you're going to insert the blue one in. So that's what this looks like. You've already popped off that little gold circle. you're going to put the gold end down here, and it fits right in, super easy. And then the blue comes around the front of the arm here. It's beeping at me because I'm taking too long. And then goes in the blue thing. And so now you can see the tubing is going through the front of the arm here, so it'll close super easy. The arm goes down, push the lever to clamp it, just kind of hold it down as you lock it, and it'll lock it in place. Now we're good to go, good to prime. Importantly, this doesn't have an airstream detector, so even though I'm not hooked up to anything, you'll see it'll let me prime and run the infusion, because it's not checking for air. That's why you're there. Another reason that a nurse needs to be there, just to monitor the infusion, make sure there's no air being infused. So it's gonna go really slow, 0.1 mils per like rotation of the clamp. So after you get to whatever it is, about 3 mils worth of the tubing, you'll see that you've come to the end and fully primed your tubing, and then you're good to connect it. So you'll hit yes to exit, and then yes to run. And so at this point, you're connected to the patient. Not yes to run to start. And it's gonna say the bag volume is greater, that's fine. So I'm gonna hit yes, and then now it's running. The only way you know it's running is because it does that one beep, and then there's a run button, and then you can kind of hear the pump rotating over every time it pumps. Otherwise, it's silent. It's going to automatically kick over to those titration changes every 15 minutes. So you'll need to set an alarm on your phone or something to take vitals at that point. The pump itself won't beep or alarm or anything like that. So you have to have some sort of alarm to make sure that you're taking a set of vitals at every titration change, and then hourly after that. That's the typical policies for all of these pharmacies. So just set an alarm on your phone, keep 15 minutes, you're taking vitals with each titration change, and you're confirming on here that, oh, yep, it bumped up to that new rate. It just doubled, or whatever it's programmed to do. So that's basically it. It would just run and run and run. I'll turn it off now. If you ever, you can always pause it here and then resume. If you ever need to turn it off for whatever reason, it runs out of batteries, powers down, you can replace the batteries or do whatever you need to do. Let the patient go to the bathroom, replace the batteries here in the back. Turn it back on. It'll go through its boot screen, and then it will allow you to resume at whatever titration you are currently at. So that'll be a new first option. It'll say resume RX, and we can just pick up wherever we left off. So you don't have to go through the slow titration steps again if you are already in the middle of an infusion. So we'll go to program, and then just hit resume, and it'll pick up where it left off. If it was a brand new day, you needed to restart it over, then you could scroll down to repeat, and it would start from the bottom again and then titrate up and up and up. But again, those titrations will be specific to each patient. So a last couple notes here on the pump itself. This spike, it doesn't have a vent. So some of the pharmacies will have you pool the IG or pool the medicine, where you're pulling the meds into a central bag. So if it's in a bag, you don't need a vent. You can just spike directly to it. The bag will collapse and you won't get a vacuum. If you're pulling from vials, so if it's a glass vial, that vial can't contract, so you will need a vent. So the pharmacy will send a vented spike adapter, which is this right here. You just spike the spike. I'm not going to push it down all the way so I can use it in the future again for training demos, but then there'll be a spike on the end of that with the vent so that you don't have a vacuum buildup inside the tubing. The last thing that the pharmacies will send, even if it is a pump medication, is they'll send tubing as a backup for gravity. Sometimes that'll be a drip chamber so you can calculate the rate. Often it will be one of these, which is called dial-a-flow tubing, and you can rotate it from fully off up to, depending on which one it is, 200 to 250 mils an hour as a drip rate. You can still confirm it with the drip chamber, but it's a little easier to calculate based on that. So you might see that as well.